Um, Good evening, everyone. Thank you for continuing to stay on after a long day of tutorials. This session is a special session. What we wanted to do is at least have some discussion, formal. So we set apart 2 hours in the conference for Python in schools. So I have a very brief talk. It will be followed by a presentation by Dr. Ajit. Perhaps for about 40 minutes or 30 minutes. After that, at around 5 o'clock, we'll start a panel discussion. We have with us several teachers from, there are I think 4 teachers from the KV IIT school. Can you please raise your hands, the KV teachers? 4 of you, right? 4 KV teachers. Thank you very much for being here. We also have, I think 6 teachers from the Northeast, school teachers. Thank you for coming. We also have several distinguished panel members. Professor Kannan Moudgalya over here. You've all heard of Professor Kannan. You will see him again as a panel member. Dr. Ajit himself, Jared Willman, and Professor Supratik Chakrabarti, who is on his way. He will also be a panel member. I will be the moderator of the panel, as in I will just ask them the questions. We will have a section where we hope to ask the audience as well some questions. So first, let me just begin with the plan, as in what do we want to do. So I'll just introduce the motivation behind what we wanted to do, why we want to do it, and a rough plan of action that we have in mind. None of this is completely decided yet. And then show you some demo material that we have generated and also tell you how you can help this. So the general idea is, can we use Python to help school students understand physics and math better? So as all of you have seen, Python has a huge number of libraries that can very easily be used to demonstrate a lot of simple physics and mathematics. So you have seen SymPy, for example. But how many of us can point to a school student who has used SymPy? How many of us sees a school student actually making plots, okay, actually looking at a physics problem and trying to solve it on the computer? So I personally believe, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree, that if a school student, say in the 9th or 8th standard, were introduced to a computing platform which is open source, which is relatively easy to use, students will lap it up very soon. And this helps students in multiple ways. So there are 2 things that we get with Python. One is, for teachers, it's a great aid for teaching. So a lot of concepts are much easier to explain, or rather there's a different way of explaining things when you have an algorithm to explain it with, rather than just purely a mathematical perspective. So sometimes if you're looking at an ordinary differential equation or a differential equation, sometimes students, their eyes glaze over because you say differential equation. But if you show them a computer program which shows a plot, it's a lot easier for them to follow. So we believe that it's a good teaching aid. The other thing is, it offers interactive exploration, and this is kind of the biggest kick one can get by learning. So when we learn by doing, I feel that you get a lot of feedback. The instant you get positive feedback from what you learn, that you understand something and you're able to predict something or you're able to plot something interactively, that makes a big difference to learning, as a learning experience. So we think that Python would be an excellent fit for students to learn and for teachers to teach better using these aids. So what we want to do is, we want to create a bunch of learning resources in various forms. I'll talk about that a little more. We also want to help train the teachers in order to help them use these tools. So a lot of the physics and math teachers may not know a lot of programming, may never have heard of Python, may never have heard of SymPy, or anything you can possibly do with it. And often students, teachers have a lot of workload. Unlike professors, they have to teach from pretty much 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, and there's a lot of work for them. They don't have the time to go back home and improvise and do something new. So here is an area where we can collectively build material that makes it easy for teachers to learn, and then we can also try to train these teachers by incentivizing it somehow and actually spreading the message. A lot of teachers teach because they're truly committed. They really want to make a difference. So if you give them aids that are easy, they will definitely take it up. And finally, we need support, which is where all of you come in. So for learning resources, we're thinking of first teaching the teachers very basic Python, and not very sophisticated or complicated Python, very simple Python. And the idea is Dr. Ajit will show several examples that he has constructed. So he has like a half an hour tutorial as an introduction to Python. So in half an hour he covers the basic elementary concepts of Python and shows how 10th or 11th standard problems can be solved with another additional half an hour. So 1 hour of time investment on the part of a teacher is not too much to ask. In addition, we can take several examples from the standard textbooks and convert them into nice interactive IPython notebooks. Host them so that students and teachers can execute them if they have access to the internet, and if they don't, we distribute them, make them freely available. Okay? And if we host it, again, installation problems at least partially are solved. And of course, if they really want to install it themselves, as we know, students always know how to, students these days are kind of born with the keyboard. So they'll very quickly figure out how to do various things. Okay, and it's an opening into an entire universe of computing and computing environments. As regards training, our plan is to try to see if we can use some of the infrastructure that has already been built at the college level. So at IIT Bombay, there are many NME ICT sister projects that have successfully trained a very large number of teachers. For example, Professor Phatak runs a program which is called 10,000 Teacher Training Program. So in one shot, they train 10,000 teachers. So I'm not sure we can actually use the facilities, but we are going to try to make an attempt to at least use some of those facilities and at least the contacts. And Professor Kannan Madgalya is here, who is part of these projects, who will advise us on how best to do these. So the idea is we'll train and try to help train and use the facilities from FOSSEE and other sister projects from NME ICT to try to improve the quality of education by training the teachers to use Python. And finally, for support, this is where all of you come in. So we need help from every direction. We'll have a demo, I'll go to that later. So how can you help? Basically, you can help spread the message because people don't even know about Python. They don't know that at the school level you can easily pick up a language that really makes a difference. The second thing is you could perhaps adopt a school. You could go to your own school, talk to the teachers there. Usually they are more than interested to actually do better and communicate better to their students. So if you can help us reach out to these students, we can again make the material available. You can even help teach the teachers resolve their doubts, help them with their installation issues, point them to all of these resources. And this is an extremely important part because we cannot scale this up to the number of schools all over India without your participation. All right? So that's kind of a summary of what we want to do. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Ajit, who will show us a demo of some of the material that he has already built. And we invite your comments on both the material and the strategy towards the end of the panel discussion. So we will have a panel discussion where we ask some specific questions to the panel members. We will also open the questions to the audience so that you can also ask some questions to the panel. And I'm hoping that over the next day and today evening that we will be able to discuss some of these. And so if you have feedback, you have comments, you're willing to help, we want to hear from you. So if you want to say, I'm willing to volunteer for my school, please let us know and we will reach out to you as soon as we have material that's ready. Okay? Thank you very much. I now request Dr. Ajit to speak. What am I doing wrong?
One more you have to.
Right. Good afternoon. So my job is to present a case, actually part of it already done by Prabhu. Like suppose say you meet a teacher, a physics or mathematics teacher, and you want to tell him to go for Python. So, the first 1 hour, suppose he says I can give you only 1 hour time, describe what is the advantage of using Python. So, what we will tell, and this is only a suggestion and probably you can give your comments. So, finally, we can make some material and approach the schools. Like, see, most of the time the science is taught without using any numerical methods. So, we just take, like if you take a simple pendulum, we make a lot of assumptions and finally arrive at a simple relationship, and that can be done analytically. So, that there is no need of any computer there. And next thing is, actually should we learn some coding at all? That also may be debatable, but we make an assumption that okay, let us do some coding, but not by deviating too much from our core subject, and this we can just give it. So, this is where we consider Python. Can we use it as a tool, and if we are going to use it, how much effort is required and what are the benefits. So, let us put a small amount of time, just explore this with some examples. So, the tools I am going to use, they belong to 20th century, not 21st. That is a plain text editor and a terminal where you can type in, run the Python interpreter. So, in the text editor, okay, let me make the fonts a bit bigger. Is that all right, that size? Is it readable? I am starting with something which you already know. It is a algebraic expression, say x is equal to 5, y is equal to 5x, and this you do not have to tell the teacher what it is, he or she already knows that. And the third one you add from Python, you say print y or something. Now, there is only one more thing we have to correct here. This 5x, we routinely use it and we know there is an implied multiplication, but that the interpreter won't understand. So, you put it explicit multiplication. So, all we are trying to do is, we know something, that is our simple algebra, elementary algebra, type it in a text editor, add one print statement and save it. Some name, right. Then all you have to learn is how to run it. So, it prints that. So, this becomes the first Python program that is slightly extending your algebraic equation. So, we are not bothered what is the language or anything. Now, the first question comes, we know what is a variable x, y, everything, that is the concepts are already known. But what is the kind of data? Is integer or floating point number, decimal number, or is a character string? This sort of question, fortunately Python, you do not have to know it in beforehand because of the dynamic typing. But still we can ask something like, say, print type of x. Oh, yeah. So, it tells it is an integer. So, at least that much we learn, and here if you go and make it 5.6 and run it again. So, it is very easy to figure out, okay, it is, if you assign a floating point number, it becomes a floating point number, that is, there is nothing much to learn in that. And you can as well extend it to, say, make it say 5.6 plus 3j, and you see that it has become a. So, what we have done so far is, we have defined variables belonging to 3 different data types without talking much about Python. And now we can probably try a couple of more data types. That is, you define something like, say, or we can even, okay, let it be there, fine. And ask the interpreter what is the data type of this, that string which you have put into inverted two quotes actually, right, single quotes. And we know that it is a character string. So, it looks like the character string is another Python data type. So, here you are introducing something unknowingly, like you can do an indexing. That means the first three types were the numeric types, integer, floating point and complex number, but this one seems to be a slightly different, right. It is a collection of identical elements, different characters are just put. So, say like 5 of them are put inside a quote. So, you can do something called this indexing. So, when you ask for the first element, that is, you have to ask a of 0 with 2 square brackets. So, if you ask a of 2, what it will print now? So, that is one more step further. That means you can have data that is a collection, a sequence type, right. And we are actually exploring only the minimal thing which we want to use. So, put one more item, say we have put 3 numbers separated by comma inside square brackets. And here also let us ask what is the type of this. It says it is something called a list. So, total we have now 5 data types, and we also learned how to define variables and also to perform some arithmetic operation on that, right, a multiplication. Now, if I run this, there are 2 print statements, but this also tells us this control flow is, flow is monotonous, right, starting from the first line, it is executing one by one, so first line to last line. So, that becomes a sort of handicap. That means, every line you are typing your algebraic expression or assignment operator, Python is able to walk that statement, but in an order, starting from the first, then goes the second, like that. And with this, somebody tells me, okay, you solve a practical problem, like print the multiplication table of 5. So, what I am going to do is, do something like this. Because I have been given a assignment, print the multiplication table of 5. So, it is the multiplication table of 5. So, your job as a programmer is more or less assured if you do it like this, right. But here the problem is, only that much Python we have learned. We have not learned how to manipulate the control flow, right. How do you manipulate the control flow? That means, the sequence in which it is to go, that should be changed. So, we have to make a small change here, right. Again, you remember, this will look very trivial to me as well as to me, to you also, but all we are trying to do is, suppose we are talking to a person who is totally new to Python, whether it makes sense or not, that finally you have to tell. So, we introduce the first control flow statement, that is an iteration, a while loop, and here you can tell this line, as it is almost like plain English. So, the interpreter will check this condition, and so long as this is true, this indented portion will be executed. That means Python, you can make blocks by indentation, and obviously if you run this, what you are going to get is an infinite loop, right. It keeps on printing 5, press Ctrl C to kill it, and the reason is this check is true forever. So, inside the loop you have to make it false. So, you have a very small program that does something useful, that is printing a multiplication table, right. So, we are talking about control flow statements. So, the iteration, that while loop is discussed, and another type of control flow statement is the if then else kind of things. If something is true, do something, otherwise do something else. So, that we can put it here itself. Say if x less than 5, and remember, wherever a block is starting, the previous line will end with a colon. So, that is not that difficult to remember. So, I just added 2 lines. So, you can see that 4 times it has printed small. So, looking at the code, you can easily make out why it is doing that, because it entered with 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, this condition x less than 5 was true, and after that this thing will be skipped, right. And you can add multiple conditions else if. So, that is written as elif, say x greater than 5 so now only one will be left, right. When is equal to 5, both of the conditions are false, so nothing is printed. So, if you want to accommodate that also, say print equal, right. So, here at this point you can say technically the language is complete, right. With this much knowledge, almost any problem can be solved. I mean, remaining things are the functions, everything to make the job easier. So, the fundamental things are like defining the variables, performing arithmetic and logical operations on that, and learning the control flow statement. So, that much we have done. So, from here, without going into the details, we will proceed further. That is something which we are interested in, like say some mathematical function, say we sin 1, and let us see what happens. Because for a maths teacher, this is something interesting, and Python clearly says name sin is not defined, that means I do not know what to do. And if we cannot get this answer, it is comparatively useless. So, here we introduce the concept of functions and modules. That means, let us define a function first, or let us import it from, there is a math module already built there. From math, say import, there are many ways to import, but we will not go into the details, just type this one line and run it. So, you got the math module imported, and from the math module you are using the sin function. And if you want to define your own functions, it is so easy, say define my sign or say my add. And there are two parameters that we will see later what it is. So, you have defined a function and invoked it, right. So, that is just to show how simple it is, there is no other reason. Now, another common application is dealing with matrices, right. In physics and maths you want to normally use matrices, and the only data type we have introduced is the list, and that looks like this, say so. Here we defined a list and multiplied it by 5, it became 5 times that in a bigger list, and this is not something which we need, right. We need all the element to be multiplied by that number, and for that we cannot use the list data type. So, we have to use some other data type, and that comes from the NumPy module. So, there is a collection of functions in the NumPy module, we get that, and using this list let us convert into a NumPy array. So, instead of 5 say make it 0.5. So, we have some way of making a matrix now, right, a one dimensional array, and you can multiply it and it obeys the multiplication, the rules of the matrices. And NumPy also gives you many other functions, and all those things you already know. Say if you do something like this, it get 5 zeros, or you can make ones or other thing, but the useful thing is our concept of linear space. So, you can use the function linspace. Let us just give an example, say 0 to 5, say 6 elements. So, this is something which we should look into that a little bit seriously. That means, you can define a linear space, say spanning from 0 to 5, and you tell how many points, say we said 6 points, that means 6 equidistant points are there. So, this 6 probably I can make it 12, then see what happens. So, again 12 equidistant points. So, what is the use of having this? I am printing x, instead of that let us print say x square. So, that one line you are getting the square of all the elements in that array, right. And instead of this from 0, let us say make it say minus 5 to 5 and putting some 11 elements. You see the square of them there, right. But if it becomes very big, then this printing does not make sense, right. If you have a data set which is say 100, 200 points, you do not want to see this print out like this. So, what we have to do? Somehow we have to plot the graph. So, that we use a package called matplotlib, but the easy way is use the Pylab interface, and that will import NumPy for you. So, instead of this plot, all I have to do is print, I will just convert into a plot. or if you want to make it more explicit, you can just write one more line, say y is equal to x square and print x and y. Add one more line so that the plot stays there. So, you have a parabola here, y is equal to x square is a parabola, right. So, you can easily see that. So, that is a algebraic equation. If you want to visualize that, this much is the effort required. I mean, you do not have to learn probably several months of a programming language to get it going. And now the advantages, like when you see a function, somebody asks, is it an odd function or even function? How do you know that? If you know how to plot it, it is quite easy. Make it x cube and see how the plot goes. Now, clearly you can see that other one was an even function, this is a odd function, right? There is no symmetry. And similarly, you can put anything here. Suppose if you want to make it sin x, is there. So, it is very little typing or the coding is required, most of the time few lines. So, now what I will do is I have some collection of code here. So, instead of typing, I will just pick up from things, and this Python for schools, I mean written like that, Python for then schools. There are whatever I am talking about, some YouTube videos are there like this, I mean whatever this screen capture I have put there, and all the examples also put on the website. That link is there on the YouTube page. So, now I will just pick up something which is probably useful in explaining some concept. Suppose say you have two sine waves. So, here if you see the code, we have a linear space, a 0 to 1, and we define a frequency of 100, and the equation is a sine 2 pi f t, right. That is the first say 100 hertz sine wave, and another one a 104 hertz sine wave. And we talk about this beats. What is beats actually? If you add two frequencies with slight difference, there should be different frequency appear as beats. So, let us run this, and this is how the beats appear. And by the way, this one is another small Python program, this code browser. And now you can come here and start changing this. Suppose say instead of 102 you make it. So, this is like this, right. So, it is very easy to demonstrate beats, and instead of sum, suppose if you take say product of two sine waves. You have say a 200 hertz and then a 5 kilohertz, and what you are plotting is y1 into y2, the product of these two, and you can see that how the amplitude modulation, that waveform, modulated waveform is coming, and it is plotted along with the signal. The carrier is not plotted. So, some of these concepts it is very easy to show this way, and probably another one let us pick. This is about the line voltage, the AC. You know that 50 hertz AC, 230 volt AC, between neutral and any phase you get 230, but between two phases you get how much? That you may not remember, around 400 volts, right, 230 into root 3. And those who know that theory, they know it how it comes, but if a school student asks how it comes, it is much easier if you plot it. So, what is plotted is the three phases and the difference of any two phases. So, you can see from the picture, if you this, suppose you subtract this red from green, you will get this big curve because of the phase difference. So, things can be very easily visualized, and now we will take a slightly more complex things. Say here there is another small program, so let me make it. So, it is visible now, right. Okay. You see some code there. So, I will explain what it is. So, we have written say time t is equal to 0 and there is a dt 0.1 and the equation which we are handling is the equation of the radioactive decay. That is the rate of change of n, that dn by dt is minus lambda n. So, that equation is given and all we are doing is in a small while loop we are calculating that dn, because if dn by dt is minus lambda n, then dn is minus lambda into n into dt, right. And that means after dt the n will go to n plus dn, that is what the equation means, right. So, then you keep on increment the dt, after every dt you are calculating the dn, and just let us save this and plot it. Oh, there are two lines, there is one line missing here. Right. So, you see the exponential decay, you are not giving that equation anywhere of the exponent, you are actually integrating it with this one line and you repeatedly do that and get that result. And the same thing can be done for many other, say mass spring problem or anything, you can do that. So, I have kept all these examples here, and what is special about this example is the upper limit of the code is 20 lines. You will not find any program which exceeds 20 lines. If you find something exceed 20 lines, you will find another version of it below 20 lines. So, now let us take say the mass and spring problem. Here we use that Python visual, and all it does is in a loop it calculate the force, that is minus kx, and force is minus kx and we put a velocity dependent damping term also. So, velocity is what? Oh, it's red is not coming, okay. So, red should go to blue, right? This one, right? All right. So, maybe we will remove the damping. So, if you remove the damping term, say where is the damping 0.1, so I make it 0. So, now it will not, it will go forever. And what we are looking at is the amount of code we have written, and we know that acceleration is force by mass and A is equal to dV by dt. That means V is A into dt and A is A by m. So, only assumption is your that knowledge that force is equal to minus kx, and you do two integrations, say V is equal to V plus dV, x is equal to x plus V dt, that is dx, and keep on doing it in a loop. So, you find that movement, but if you want to see that sinusoidal, better do it in a different way. Instead of plot this animation, you can see that here. This makes much better sense actually, and here the code is only this much, and so I will put maybe slightly more, one more example, and this say this again another running code is only 20 lines. What it does is, if you have an electric and magnetic field and if you put a charged particle with a velocity, how it goes, and here you can come and change these parameters, like if you want to change the magnetic field, electric field, and suppose you increase the electric field, run it again. we will see that helix is becoming different. So, all this material is there on the web, and you have to just look for the Python for schools at YouTube, and then this. So, you will find all the materials here. These example files are on the website. So, now it is left for your comments, and then which way it should be modified before we go to schools, that we have to decide probably during the panel discussion. Thank you.